The scent of roasted turkey filled the room. But beneath the golden glow of candles, warmth stopped at the table's edge. Rachel Adams sat in silence, her fork motionless, while laughter rippled around her like glass about to break. Her brother's voice sliced through the air calm, polished, cruel. Still wasting time on those online classes? In that instant, surrounded by doubt and the echo of their contempt, Rachel made a quiet promise. One day, the world would remember this dinner for a different reason. The smell of roasted turkey should have meant safety. It should have meant warmth, and gratitude and a family gathered in peace. Instead, in the Adams house on the edge of Portland, Oregon, it meant performance. The table was set like a photograph. Polished wood, ironed linen, silver that had belonged to Gregory's mother. The candles were low and steady, the kind of tableau that said, "We are doing well," even if the air itself said otherwise. Rachel Adams sat near the end of the table, not quite at the foot, but nowhere near the head. That place belonged to her brother. Ethan had taken it without asking. He did not ask anymore. He spoke as if the room was already listening. "So," Ethan said, carving himself another thick slice of turkey, "how is your online education going, Rachel?" His tone was soft, polite. It was the softness people used when they were sharpening a knife. "Are you still doing those video classes?" he asked. "From your bedroom?" The fork in Rachel's hand paused in the air. She did not look up right away. She placed the fork gently back down on the china and folded her hands in her lap. The room waited. Her mother was the first to smile, the way a mother smiles when she is trying to smooth over something sharp. "Ethan?" Linda said quietly. "Be kind." "I am being kind," Ethan replied, still smiling. "I am asking about her future." He turned back to Rachel. "What is the program called now?" he asked. "Digital Research Initiative? Remote Innovation Academy? I keep losing track." He laughed at his own line, and the laugh filled the dining room like steam. Across from Rachel, her father adjusted his napkin with slow, precise fingers. Gregory did everything with slow, precise fingers. He had once managed other people's money for a living. He liked numbers and control and outcomes that could be predicted. He looked at Rachel as if she were a balance sheet that did not reconcile. "You are 30, he said. "You know that, Rachel." "I do," she said. "Your brother was running a team at his firm at 30, Gregory continued. By 30, he had an office with his name on the door. Clients who trusted him. A path. Gregory lifted his glass, but he did not drink. His eyes stayed on his daughter. "At 30, he said softly, "you should not still be preparing." Linda winced. Rachel did not. Instead, Rachel breathed in through her nose and out through her mouth, slow and controlled. On the surface, she looked calm. Her shoulders were steady. Her jaw was relaxed, but her fingers under the table had curled into her palm. At the head of the table, Megan smoothed the sleeve of her cream sweater and tried to sound helpful. "I actually talked to someone for you," she offered, turning toward Rachel with a brightness that felt rehearsed. "My friend works in human resources at a logistics company. She said they might have an entry point." "Entry point," Ethan repeated, amused. "That is kind." "For someone getting started," Megan continued quickly. "It would be honest work. Nothing glamorous, but stable. Client calls, front desk, basic scheduling. You would be great with people. You are kind. You are patient." Rachel lifted her gaze to Megan's face. Patient. That was the word people used when they did not say quiet. Megan kept talking, a little faster now, as if trying to outrun the discomfort she herself had created. "Just until you figure out what you really want," Megan said. "You know, something real. Something you can put on a resume." The room went still for a beat. Gregory nodded. Linda reached for her daughter's hand, as if this was an act of care. "This is not an attack, sweetheart," Linda said. "We are not judging you." Rachel almost smiled at that, because it was so gentle and so false. "We just worry," Linda continued softly. "The world is not kind to dreamers, especially at 30. Your brother went the traditional way. You did not. That is all. It is different. And different can be dangerous. Rachel turned her hand so that Linda's fingertips were resting against her palm, not holding it. I understand, Rachel said. Her voice was even. She always kept her voice even. She had learned that if she sounded calm, people called her mature. If she sounded angry, they called her unstable. Ethan leaned back in his chair with practiced ease, the way men on magazine covers leaned back. He rested one hand on the table, palm down, as if he were claiming the room itself. Let us be honest, he said pleasantly. 3 years of online classes. No degree on the wall. No job offer. No title anybody recognizes. This is not sustainable, Rachel. It is admirable that you are curious. But curiosity is not a career. Rachel's throat moved, but she did not answer. Her eyes had drifted past her brother, past the framed family photos on the far wall, past the reflection of the dining room in the glass. For a moment, she was not in this house at all. For a moment, she was alone again in the blue light of her apartment at 2 a.m. Her laptop screen had been the only light then. Code had been scrolling in tight, dense lines, patterns that only she and 2 other people in the world could currently read without notes. Her shoulders had ached. Her wrists had burned. She had taken a deep breath, pressed a single key, and watched the simulation complete for the first time without collapsing. The protein had folded on the screen like a flower finding its final shape. She had stared at it and whispered to no one, "Please be real." Now, back at the dinner table, Ethan was still talking. "I mean this in love," he said. "I really do. But at some point we have to ask the hard question. Are these programs you keep signing up for even accredited? Do they lead anywhere? Or are you just collecting certificates because it feels like progress?" Linda flinched. "Ethan, no," Ethan said. "Someone should say this. We have all been tiptoeing around it for years." He turned to Gregory, inviting backup. Gregory exhaled through his nose. "Rachel," he said, "have you considered applying to a traditional graduate program? Something grounded. Business administration, teaching, nursing, something. Recognized. That word landed like a weight. Rachel lifted her head and looked at her father. "I am already in a doctoral program," she said. Ethan laughed softly. "A real one?" Rachel looked at him. "My work is supervised," she said. "It is reviewed. It is published. It is taken seriously." Ethan tilted his head. "By whom?" Rachel held his gaze. "By people who understand it." Something flickered across Ethan's face. Annoyance. Then something colder. "Something like offense. Is that what this is now?" he asked. "You are smarter than the rest of us?" Megan looked down at her plate. Linda whispered, "Ethan, please." Gregory's jaw had tightened. It always tightened right before he delivered a verdict. "This is not about smarter," Gregory said. "This is about reality. Your brother lives in reality. He works with clients with real stakes, in real rooms, at real tables." He paused. Then gently, like a man offering advice from experience, not judgment, he said, "You do not." The dining room was silent, except for the small hum of the heater and the delicate constant click of the dining room clock. Seconds passed loud enough to hear. Rachel sat very still. Then she said, in a voice so calm it almost sounded like agreement, "I already have work." Ethan smiled without warmth. "Do you?" Rachel nodded once. "It is simply not the kind you understand." For half a second, no one moved. Then Ethan let out a short breath, disbelieving, and leaned back again. "There it is," he said. "There is the attitude," Linda tried to laugh. The sound shook. Megan reached for her glass of water with both hands, as if she needed something to hold on to. Gregory looked tired. And then, from under the table, Rachel's phone began to vibrate. It was not one polite alert. It was a steady pulse. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Ethan rolled his eyes. "There we go," he said. "Discussion board reminder. Do not forget to post by midnight for participation credit."
Rachel did not answer him. She slid her hand into her jacket pocket, almost apologetically, as if she were the one being rude. "Please put it away," Gregory said. "We are having a serious conversation." Rachel pulled the phone out anyway. Her expression changed before she had even unlocked the screen. A small shift. The kind of shift you would miss if you had not spent your life watching her face for information she did not want to give. Her eyes sharpened. Her posture straightened by a fraction. The room felt it. "What is it?" Linda asked, her voice already tight with worry. For a moment Rachel did not speak. Her gaze moved slowly over the notifications stacked on her lock screen. Her reflection glowed in the glass. Steady eyes, calm mouth. A woman who had swallowed doubt for so long that silence had become her armor. She unlocked the phone. The first line of the first message filled the screen in clean government lettering. United States Patent and Trademark Office. It read. Below that, Dr. Rachel Marie Adams. This is official notice that your application regarding quantum-assisted neural architecture for accelerated protein structure prediction has been approved for patent protection. Rachel's heart struck once hard. Her hand tightened around the phone. The table watched her. Ethan frowned. "Rachel." Gregory leaned forward. "Is something wrong?" Rachel lifted her eyes. Her voice, when it finally came, was not loud. Did not need to be. "No," she said softly. Then, after a breath, "Something is finally right." Fade to black. For a long moment no one moved. The only sound in the room was the faint hum of the heater and the steady rhythmic buzz of Rachel's phone vibrating in her hand. "Rachel," her father said, his voice low but carrying that unmistakable edge of command. "Put it away." She looked up at him, and for the first time in her life, Gregory Adams saw something in his daughter's eyes that unsettled him. Not rebellion, not anger, something sharper. Focus. The phone vibrated again. Rachel hesitated, then swiped to answer. "Hello." A composed female voice, crisp and measured, filled the room. "Dr. Adams? This is Dr. Sarah Morrison, Dean of Bioengineering at Stanford University. I hope I am not interrupting your evening." The words Dean and Stanford hung in the air like something sacred. Everyone at the table froze. Rachel blinked. "No, not at all, Dean Morrison. I did not expect your call tonight." "I imagine not," the woman replied warmly. "I will be brief. The United States Patent Office sent over your approval notice just an hour ago. Congratulations. Your architecture for quantum-assisted protein modeling is already being described as a landmark innovation. MIT's research division copied us on the notification, and I wanted to reach out personally." Rachel swallowed. The air around her felt thinner, electric. "Thank you," she said softly. "I am honored." "You have earned it," Dr. Morrison said. "Stanford would like to formally invite you to join our Department of Bioengineering as an assistant professor. We will fund an independent research lab under your direction. MIT has agreed to share data rights and co-credit your work. You would be free to recruit your own graduate team and continue development of the model." Across the table, her brother's knife fell against his plate with a dull metallic clatter. "Did you say professor?" Ethan asked, half laughing, half choking. "She is teaching at Stanford." Rachel's mother pressed a hand to her chest. "You mean she is working there, not taking classes?" Dr. Morrison continued on speaker, unaware of the storm she had dropped into the dining room. "We are prepared to provide full relocation assistance, a housing stipend, and immediate funding for your computational lab. Your work could redefine how the world approaches molecular medicine. You deserve the right tools, Dr. Adams." For the first time, Rachel smiled. It was not triumph. It was release. "Thank you, Dean. I will review the offer carefully." "Of course," Morrison replied. "Take your time. But I would encourage you not to wait too long. The scientific community is already moving." And Dr. Adams dash. "Yes. The world just found out who you are. Be ready for what comes next." The line clicked. Silence returned. Rachel lowered the phone. For several seconds no one spoke. The air itself seemed to listen. Linda's voice broke first. "You mean you are teaching at Stanford? You, my little girl who took online classes in her apartment." Rachel looked at her mother. "Yes, Mom. That one." Gregory leaned forward, his business instincts flickering back to life. "Wait," he said. "How much is this patent worth exactly?" Rachel exhaled, the faintest tremor passing through her shoulders. "I do not know. That is not what matters." "Not what matters?" Gregory repeated. "Rachel, people do not call from Stanford for hobbies. There must be dash. It is not about money, she said quietly. It is about solving protein folding. About finding the patterns life hides from us. Her words landed like something foreign in that room, something holy. Ethan blinked, trying to process them, his smile dissolving. You mean to tell me, he said slowly, that those video lectures, those nights staring at a laptop were real work? Actual research? They were, Rachel said. I was part of MIT's remote research consortium. We built quantum simulations for drug discovery. The patent recognizes that model. Linda's eyes filled. Oh, Rachel, we thought you were lost. We thought you were wasting time. Rachel's gaze softened. I know. Ethan rubbed a hand over his face, color rising in his cheeks. This is unreal. You cannot just, this kind of thing does not happen to people who study online. It did, she said simply. Megan, who had been silent until now, set down her phone with trembling fingers. Her voice came out small. I posted a picture of us earlier. Captioned it, Thanksgiving with our overachiever and our dreamer. She swallowed. I think I should delete it. Rachel turned her head, and the look she gave her sister-in-law was neither cruel nor forgiving. It was gentle, but it held weight. Do not, she said softly. Leave it there. Let people see how dreams actually look. No one moved. Gregory's fingers tightened around the stem of his wine glass until it trembled. The sound of his breath filled the silence. All this time, he whispered. All these years. I measured success wrong. The sentence was not an apology, but it was the closest thing he had ever given. Rachel leaned back slightly in her chair. She was still the same woman who had walked into that room an hour ago, quiet, deliberate, unarmed, but now the walls around her had shifted. In her mind, the last 3 years replayed in flashes. The hours she spent debugging impossible code, the nights she fell asleep on her desk, the moment she doubted herself so completely she almost stopped. She remembered the rejection letters, the silence from companies who had never read her proposals, the sting of being dismissed by her own family at every holiday dinner. And yet here she was. The call from Stanford had not changed who she was. It had only revealed her. Ethan's voice cracked the stillness again, softer this time. Rachel. Why did you not tell us? Rachel looked at him. I tried, she said. But you had already decided what was true. He flinched as if struck. Linda reached across the table, her hand trembling. We were only trying to help. Rachel placed her phone face down on the linen. The glow from its screen lit a faint halo around her fingers. I know, she said again. But sometimes help feels like a cage. The clock on the wall ticked once, then twice, its rhythm steady against the unsteady silence. In the reflection of the dining room window, the family looked smaller somehow. The chandelier light had dulled. The proud posture of the father, the easy arrogance of the son, the polished smile of the sister-in-law softened, as if someone had turned the world down to its truest brightness. Rachel stood. No one stopped her. I should call her back, she said quietly. There is a lab to build. Gregory's voice followed, uncertain, almost reverent. At Stanford. Rachel met his eyes. Yes, at Stanford. She gathered her coat from the chair and walked toward the hallway, the sound of her footsteps steady, the same calm rhythm that had once driven her through endless nights of study. Behind her, the family remained seated, each one staring into the space she had left. And somewhere between pride and regret, something in them broke open. The door closed softly, and for the first time in that house, silence did not mean failure. It meant recognition. The night after the dinner, the world found Rachel Adams. It began quietly and alert, then 2, then hundreds. Her name appeared on scientific forums first, tucked between words like quantum, protein folding, and revolutionary. Within hours, news outlets had picked up the story. The photograph attached to every headline was the same one she had taken for her MIT student ID 3 years ago. A tired young woman with dark circles beneath determined eyes. By morning, it was everywhere. Unknown online researcher solves 50-year protein mystery. Patent filed by remote student could redefine drug discovery. In the Adams house, the television glowed against the gray light of dawn. Linda sat on the sofa in her robe, a half-empty cup of coffee cooling beside her. Megan was scrolling through her phone with trembling fingers, reading aloud each new article that surfaced. Gregory stood behind them immobile, his hands clasped behind his back. Ethan hovered near the window, eyes fixed on the street outside, as if looking for an escape that did not exist. Rachel entered quietly, holding her laptop against her chest. The moment she appeared, the room fell silent. Megan looked up first. "Rachel, they are calling your algorithm a breakthrough." Her voice wavered. CNN, the New York Times, even Nature Journal. They are all quoting MIT's statement. "Do you understand what this means?" Rachel set her laptop on the table. "It means the work is finally seen," she said softly. Ethan turned from the window, his face pale. "This cannot be real. You cannot just wake up one morning and have the entire scientific world bow to you." Rachel met his gaze. "It is not overnight, Ethan. It took 3 years of nights you did not see." He opened his mouth but no sound came. Gregory cleared his throat. "They are estimating your patent value at over $3 billion. Rachel smiled faintly. "That is a projection, not a price." Linda's eyes filled with tears. $3 billion, she whispered almost reverently. "My God." Rachel's laptop chimed. She opened an email. Her voice stayed calm, even as her pulse quickened. "The National Science Foundation wants me to give a keynote at their summit. Biogen Pharmaceuticals has requested a meeting. They are offering a 10-year licensing partnership." Gregory's composure cracked. 10 years. Rachel nodded. "Yes." "Worth how much?" he asked, almost pleading. $3.8 billion, she said. "In long-term value." The number hit the room like thunder. Megan pressed a hand over her mouth. Ethan stepped backward until his shoulder brushed the wall. Ethan stammered. "You cannot possibly 3.8 Rachel closed the laptop and looked at her family. "You wanted something tangible," she said quietly. "Now you have it." Ethan's voice rose, raw with disbelief. "How? How could this happen? You sat in that small apartment taking online classes. You made it sound like a hobby." Rachel's expression softened, but there was steel beneath her calm. "You never asked what those classes were. You never wanted to know. You heard online and stopped listening." He shook his head, anger flickering like static. "Do not turn this on me. You hid this from us." "I tried to tell you," she said, her tone almost tender. "But every time I spoke, you talked over me." Ethan's jaw tightened. He looked at her for a long time, then sank into a chair, his voice breaking. "I mocked you for years. Because if you were right, then I was ordinary. And I could not bear that." Rachel stepped closer. "You are not ordinary, Ethan. You are successful. But success is not the same as certainty." He bowed his head, unable to look at her. Gregory moved then, his polished calm finally slipping. He crossed the room and stopped before his daughter. For the first time, his voice held no authority, only awe. "I spent my life believing success could be managed," he said quietly. "Controlled. I thought if I planned enough, measured enough, the world would stay predictable. You proved me wrong." Rachel looked at him, her father, the man who had built walls of reason around every emotion. His eyes were damp. The sight undid something in her. "I did not want to prove you wrong," she said. "I wanted to make you proud." Gregory's lips parted, but words failed him. He nodded once, almost an apology. The television shifted to a live broadcast. A reporter stood outside MIT, excitement cutting through her voice. Sources confirm that Dr. Rachel Adams has been offered a joint research position between MIT and Stanford to lead a new quantum molecular initiative. Experts predict her work could accelerate drug discovery by decades. The camera cut to a stock photo of Rachel, again tired, resolute, illuminated by the soft blue light of her laptop. Linda began to cry in earnest. "That is my daughter," she whispered. "My brilliant, stubborn girl." Rachel went to her, knelt by her side and took her hand, the same hand that had once pointed her toward practical dreams. "I am still that girl," she said gently, "just finally seen." Megan, silent for so long, spoke in a fragile voice. "I told people at work you were unemployed," she said. "I made jokes because I thought it was harmless." Her eyes filled. "Now they are all reading about you, and I do not know how to face them." Rachel gave a small, forgiving smile. "Then do not face them. Just learn from it." Her phone rang again. The caller ID read Biogen Pharmaceuticals, Executive Board. She let it ring. Gregory stared at her. You are not answering? Rachel shook her head. I will call them back when I am ready. Not before. Ethan looked up from his chair. Why wait? This is billions of dollars. Because, Rachel said, rushing into deals out of shock is how you lose everything you fought for. I have learned to wait. She turned away, walking toward the window. The morning light fell across her face. Behind her, the television continued to speak her name. The sound blurred, becoming a hum beneath the silence that grew inside her. Everyone wanted a piece of what I made, she thought. But no one asked what it cost to make it. Images flickered behind her eyes. Nights of failure, weeks of isolation. The sting of doubt from people she loved most. Each success had been paid for with loneliness. Each discovery purchased with another layer of distance between her and the life she once knew. She closed her eyes and breathed. It was supposed to feel like victory. Felt instead like quiet exhaustion. Rachel, her mother said softly. Are you all right? Rachel turned back to her family, her eyes bright but calm. Yes, she said. I just need time to think. Gregory stepped closer. You will stay here tonight, he said. It was not an order but a plea. Rachel shook her head gently. No, Dad. There is too much noise here. I need silence to understand what this means. Ethan rose, tears in his eyes. Rachel dash. She stopped him with a small, kind gesture. It is all right, Ethan. We will talk again. When we can listen. She gathered her coat from the chair, the same coat she had worn the night before, and slipped it on. As she walked toward the door, the glow of the television caught her face one last time. On the screen beneath her photograph, the headline scrolled again. A new era in science begins. Rachel opened the door. Cold air swept into the room, crisp and clean. She looked back once at the family she had loved, at the disbelief softening into pride, at the life she was leaving behind, and whispered almost to herself, every discovery has a cost. Then she stepped outside. The door closed. And in the quiet that followed, even the sound of the television seemed reverent. The television flickered softly in the living room, its glow painting the walls in silver light. Outside, dawn pressed gently against the windows of the Adams house, a fragile stillness following the storm of headlines that had swept through their lives. Rachel sat on the edge of the sofa, coat folded beside her, a suitcase resting near the door. Her face was calm, almost too calm, the kind of quiet that follows both victory and exhaustion. Across from her, her family watched the screen. It showed footage of her standing beside a podium at MIT, a brief clip from the news broadcast earlier that morning. Dr. Rachel Adams, the scientist whose quantum architecture could revolutionize medicine, has accepted a joint appointment with Stanford University. Her research is already being hailed as one of the most important discoveries of the decade. The anchor's voice was steady, reverent. Then silence. Linda reached for the remote and lowered the volume. The sound vanished, leaving only the tick of the clock and the faint hum of the heater. For a while no one spoke. Then very softly Linda asked, Are you happy now, sweetheart? Rachel looked up. Her eyes were gentle but distant. I am relieved, she said. But I am not sure that is the same thing. Her mother's hand trembled slightly as she placed her coffee cup on the table. I wanted this for you, she whispered. Success, stability, respect. I just never imagined it would come from something I did not understand. You wanted to protect me, Rachel said. I know that. You just did not realize that your protection kept me small. Ethan stood near the window, arms folded, his reflection overlapping hers in the glass. His voice was low, uncertain. You changed the world, Rachel, he said. And I broke something between us. I do not know if you will ever trust me again. Rachel met his eyes in the glass. Trust is not rebuilt with words, she said softly. It is rebuilt with silence, the kind where you finally listen. Ethan lowered his gaze, his jaw tight. Then I will listen, he murmured. Gregory sat apart from them on the far armchair, shoulders slumped in a way Rachel had never seen before. For years, his posture had been his armor straight, commanding, unyielding. Now it was human. When he finally spoke, his voice was quiet, almost fragile. When you were a child, he said, you used to ask impossible questions. about how machines think, how light bends, why numbers repeat. I used to tell you to focus on what is real, what can be proven. He lifted his eyes to her. And now you have proven something I cannot even begin to understand. Rachel smiled faintly. Reality changes, Dad. That is what discovery does. He nodded slowly, as if the truth of it both comforted and broke him. Megan wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. She had barely spoken all morning. Now her voice came out raw and trembling. I was cruel, she said. And I do not even know why. You threatened nothing in my life, yet I still made jokes about you to strangers. I thought it was harmless. But it was not. Rachel looked at her gently. You are not the only one who believed the wrong things, she said. We all did for a while. The clock chimed 9. Rachel glanced toward her suitcase. I should go, she said. My flight to California is in a few hours. Stanford wants me to lead a cross-campus program. It will take time to build. Linda stood quickly, as if afraid the moment would disappear if she stayed seated. She reached for her daughter's hand and held it tightly. I used to be proud of having a perfect family, she said, her voice trembling. Now I only want to be worthy of the daughter I did not believe in. Rachel smiled, her expression both tender and unyielding. Be proud anyway, she said. You gave me the stubbornness I needed. Linda let out a broken laugh that turned into a quiet sob. Ethan approached then, hesitating before speaking. When you stand at that podium again, he said, and the world listens, try to remember that we are still here, even if we do not deserve to be. Rachel looked at him for a long moment. I will remember, she said. But memories do not erase everything. Gregory rose slowly from his chair. He walked to her, paused, then placed his hand on her shoulder. I spent a lifetime teaching others how to measure value, he said. You reminded me that the most important things cannot be measured. Rachel's eyes softened. Then maybe we have both learned something. The room grew quiet again. It was not the silence of accusation anymore, it was the fragile calm that follows understanding. Rachel picked up her suitcase. Take care of each other, she said. No one moved to stop her this time. They knew they could not hold her back anymore. She opened the front door. Outside, the world was white with the first snow of winter. Each flake drifted slowly, lazily, as if the sky itself was exhaling. For a moment she stood in the doorway watching it fall. The air was cold against her face and it felt clean. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her phone, and saw a new message on the screen. Dean Morrison. Welcome to Stanford. Let us change the world. Rachel smiled faintly. The words glowed against the dim gray light. She stepped out onto the porch. Her footsteps made soft impressions in the snow. She paused, looking back once at the house, the window light spilling out, her family still inside, their silhouettes motionless in the warmth she was leaving behind. Then she looked forward again, toward the quiet road that led to the airport, to California, to everything that waited. Her breath rose in small white clouds as she whispered into the still air. The world finally believed in me. But belief came too late to fill the silence between us. Maybe that is the price of being right. She walked down the path, each step dissolving softly beneath her. The snow kept falling, and the light of the house behind her faded into the distance, until all that remained was the sound of her own steady breath, and the promise of a future she had built with her own hands. The world outside her window was quiet now. Snow drifted against the glass in slow, delicate spirals, each flake dissolving before it touched the ground. In that fragile stillness, Rachel finally understood what silence could mean, not emptiness, not absence, but peace hard-won through years of doubt and noise. She had spent half her life trying to be heard, and when the world finally listened, she realized that the sound of recognition was not as loud as she had imagined. Success did not come wrapped in applause, it came wrapped in responsibility. It asked for strength, patience, and a kind of loneliness only dreamers knew. In the dim glow of morning, her reflection looked back at her, a woman no longer asking to be believed. She had carried her vision through sleepless nights, past ridicule, past her own fear, until it became something solid, something unshakable. Yet behind that triumph lay a truth more profound than any discovery. Sometimes being right means walking alone for a very long time. There is a cost to conviction. It asks you to stand steady when everyone around you shakes their head. It demands that you believe when belief feels like madness. But if you can endure the silence, if you can hold to your purpose through misunderstanding and mockery, then one day, the world catches up. One day, the same voices that doubted you will echo your truth. Rachel's story is not only about brilliance or luck, it is about endurance. It is about the courage to keep working when no one claps, and the grace to forgive when they finally do. Her victory was not revenge. It was revelation, the quiet triumph of staying faithful to one's purpose, even when faith feels impossible. Perhaps that is what each of us is called to do. To hold the light we carry, even when no one else can see it. To move forward gently, stubbornly, until the path behind us becomes the proof. As you step away from this story, ask yourself, what dream have you hidden because someone once laughed? What part of your truth have you silenced because the world called it foolish? Maybe it is time to begin again. Maybe it is time to build what only you can see. If this story reached something inside you, if it reminded you of your own quiet battle, share your thoughts below. Tell your story. Let others know they are not walking alone. And if you wish to travel further with us, through more stories of struggle, courage, and redemption, stay with this channel. Because every voice that chooses to speak its truth makes the silence a little smaller. And somewhere in that shrinking silence, another Rachel will find the strength to keep going.